What a voice, what a song. Ain't No Mountain High Enough by an incredible performer who's had, well, a rather difficult year in one way. She started off in the West End in a hugely successful show, but it closed. She started off married with a husband that she loved, Henrick. She's now divorced, but she's come out of it a better person, and we have the story exclusively next. We're here with a lady who I've known for many years, and I'm delighted to say is back to her old self. She's charismatic, she's a personality, and people seem to love her, and I'm delighted to say Jane McDonald joins me today. How are you?
Oh, I'm fantastic, and it's always a thrill to see you, my dear.
Well, it must be. And we get on so well because we seem to understand each other.
We do, love. We always have done. For many years now we've been doing this, haven't we?
It has been a while, and I find it hard to believe that it's 6 years since The Cruise was on the telly, which launched you into huge success. I mean, you've had the 3 #1 albums, Las Vegas, sellout tours. You've done everything. I mean, there's been ups and downs, good and bad. I mean, I've been fired from about 40 radio stations in that time. But I think if you could come out of it a better person, which I think you have, that's got to be a good thing, hasn't it?
I'm very lucky. I've got a very loyal fan base who are there behind me no matter what. And believe me, having that is more than any artist could ever dream of. And of course, my life is like everybody else's life. It's up sometimes, it's down, the next. So it's been a funny couple of years, but I'm really happier than I've ever been. So I think also people realise that I'm real again. I'm back to the girl on the cruise.
We just opened the show with Ain't No Mountain High Enough, which is just one of the most incredible songs that you sing. And that really is the story of your career, really, getting up that mountain. And you seem to be at the top now. You seem to have the fans fully behind you, and you seem to know where you are, and you seem to be happy again.
I'm happy again. I certainly don't feel as if I'm at the top. I think I've got a very, very long way to go before I'm at the top. What I'm doing now is enjoying where I am, and that is a great place to be. I'm just enjoying singing again. I'm enjoying the fans again and enjoying the job, and I haven't done that for a long time, so to be there in my heart is a great place to be.
Now, the last time I spoke to you in depth was last year on a similar programme I did, and we've got about 6 hours to talk about what's happened since, because it's been such an incredible year, for good reasons and for bad reasons. Where we were last time was in a theatre in the Piccadilly in London, and you were in an incredible show, I thought, and your performance was just tremendous. You were in Romeo and Juliet, and that closed. I don't think anything to do with the show. It was just partly to do with the fact that the West End is struggling. I mean, the West End cannot put bums on seats because it's too expensive. What do you think the reasons were that the show closed?
I think there's quite a few. It was at the Piccadilly Theatre, which is a great thing. We loved the theatre, but apparently it's got a bit of a reputation which I didn't know about, because it's just at the back and not many people walk past it. Also, it was French producers who did a Shakespeare play, and I think that had a lot to do with it. I absolutely loved it. I loved every single minute of doing Romeo and Juliet. The cast were phenomenal. I thought the music was gorgeous, and that's the reason I actually signed up to do Romeo and Juliet, because I heard the tracks and I thought, this is fantastic. But in a way, I was happy it finished, because when I did finish that, I was quite ill. I had to have four weeks off. So for me, it was ideal closing time.
What was it about the show that made you ill? Was it the fact of doing 8 shows a week, or was it because you knew the show wasn't selling out every night? What was the problem?
It was nothing to do with the show why I was ill. I was going through a very emotional time in my life at that time. Luckily for me, I had to cry 4 times a night. My marriage had ended at that time, and I didn't know how to tell anybody. I didn't know what to do with myself. I thought my life was, that's it, so Romeo and Juliet was a bit of healing, doctor theatre, if you like. But also, I was able to cry on stage every night and not think, people just thought, oh gosh, isn't she emotional? But actually, I was going through a really bad time in my life. And of course, after that, I was very, very ill.
And I look back at what we were talking about almost a year ago to the day, and I feel bad because, of course, I didn't know what was going on. And I was asking you all these questions about how it all started, and you were telling me the stories about you made shepherd's pie and all things like that. And, of course, you were sat there with you're such a great actress in real life as well. I mean, you could be going through anything now. I wouldn't know, would I?
Well, no, but you have to put on that smile. You cannot take it. The thing is now, I am taking the problems of my life on stage and explaining to the audience what happened. And believe me, I've got more women fans now who are just going through the same thing as I did and saying, thank you for writing that song, because that's just what's happened to me. And I think because I am a bit honest with my fans and my audience, they're very honest with me. And I have got that relationship with my fans, and I do so appreciate that, and it's great. It's like therapy every night now. It's really strange.
I think in life, when anything happens to you, whether it's an illness or a tragedy or something in your life that's just the biggest thing that could happen to you, you think it's only you that's ever gone through it. And then, of course, you speak to other people and it's happening every day. And I think when you do that, it makes everything a lot easier, doesn't it?
I think it does. And of course, my life has been very, very public. And I went through a terrible time thinking, how am I going to break this news with this wedding that was and this romance that was seen by millions and millions of people? I just felt, how am I going to tell everyone? I was more worried about that than actually facing anything else. So I was just so thrilled with the reaction I got from the public, saying, look, this happens all the time, don't worry about it. So I'm very pleased they've helped me through it.
We're going to talk more about the breakup and how you cope with it later, because I think there'll be a lot of people listening today who are going through exactly what you went through and are going through. And I thank you for your bravery, because I know it's not easy to talk about demons that upset you. So thank you so much for doing the programme. Let's go back to the Romeo and Juliet show, though, because this musical was a big production. How does that differ from doing J. McDonald Live, which is basically just you on stage? Do you prefer being in an ensemble, or do you prefer being top of the bill?
I love teamwork. I like working with a lot of people. I don't like, the whole starry thing. So being in Romeo and Juliet was great. It was like being back on the ships, really. I was part of a cast again. Also, I had an understudy, which I've never had, being Jane McDonald. So that was quite a nice thing. And of course, you go to work like everybody else does. You have a regular job, so you've got a regular income, which is very, very nice. But there is something to being Jane McDonald out there and doing my own thing. And the reaction of the fans are there to see me. So it's not just to see the show. So there is that selfish, egotistical side of me that says, no, actually, I like being Jane McDonald. But being in the West End was a great time for me. And I hope it happens again. I really did enjoy it.
I think you deserve to have that opportunity again, because I don't think it was anything to do with you. And even the critics said, you sung the song that we're going to play in a moment from now. You sung absolutely beautifully. It was almost so good. I thought at one point, is she singing it live? Because you stood right at the front of the stage. And I was thinking about that show. It was the only point in the show when you're on stage alone. In fact, the only character that was on stage alone, right out in the audience, looking at the whites of people's eyes. That must have been terrifying.
It's more terrifying when you're doing it on tour. Because there's nothing else going off in the background. That song was a great song, and Now She Is in Love. I mean, I just love that song. And of course, I've just acted out how my baby, Juliet, has now grown up and she's leaving me and fallen in love with someone else. So I really got into the part at that time. So it was a great release for me to just stand out there and belt it, because you know me, I like to just stand out there and belt it. So that was my time to shine, if you like, and I enjoyed every minute of that song.
I've talked to a lot of people from the musicals recently, and even Michael Crawford on Broadway just had a major flop. And I'm curious to find out, did you suspect early on that this may not work? Did you have any idea that this wasn't going to be a huge success, or did you always believe that it was going to be big?
I always believed it was going to be huge, not just big, because in Paris it was the biggest selling show. But I mean, it was massive impact. They had 50 cast, they had everything. I mean, it was done in an arena, 8,000 people watching them every night. I mean, it was just phenomenal. I was lucky enough to see the French version. But it was just such a shame, because I said the music of Romeo and Juliet, the musical, was phenomenal. I'm really sort of quite upset that it wasn't released, because we all went in and did record it as well. So I always had great belief in Romeo and Juliet.
That you've got a big gob and you can belt them out, and we love you for that.
I like having a big gob, yeah. The great thing about coming from the cruise was that I didn't have to pretend to be anybody else. People just know me very intimately. They've seen me buy me knickers in Marks and Spencer's, for goodness sake. And the fans don't expect me to be any different to what I am. And believe me, for an artist, that is just so comforting. When you walk on stage and if you trip up, it doesn't matter. And the whole fans get into it with me. I'm quite lucky. And so we have a lot of humour on stage, and they all shout out, "And how's your mum?" and da-da-da. And it's really an atmosphere that I cherish from my fans.
I suppose the fact that you are real and that you're open and that you tell people that you've made mistakes and that everything doesn't always go right in life, but it's what you make of it, that they'll forgive you for things. So if you do make a mistake on stage, for example, it won't matter. They know you're real. Some performers go on stage and they do more of an act, don't they? They don't talk to their fans, they don't see their fans, and I suppose they're putting more pressure on themselves that they have to be perfect every time.
I think they're missing out such a lot, because when you get out there and you really get to know your audience like I do, and the fans I know by first name. I mean, the front 2 rows are the same every single night. It's just amazing. So if I did forget the words, they'd just say, you do this now, because they know the show better than I do, which is very comforting, and it's great to see those faces every single night. It really is.
Let's talk about something we talked about earlier, which was the breakup of your marriage with Henrick. It was quite public, but it couldn't have been as public as your marriage, because 16 million people, I think, watched you get married. It was all such a whirlwind. We saw you on the cruise originally. That's where we got to know you, in this tin pot programme that was probably given a budget of £2.50, one cameraman. He was the same sound man. He just followed you around. This was never expected to be a success, but it became an absolute national hit, pulling in 9 million a night and more on many occasions, and just huge. You got married from that, and then it's all gone wrong. Do you think you were carried along with the programme that kind of drove you into marriage, or were you 100% believing that it could work?
Everybody knew how much I loved Henrick. I honestly thought that would be for life. And it took me a long time to decide to get married. I mean, I was 33, and I'd really picked a husband that I thought, right, this is it. But nothing's in concrete. You cannot. It's changed the way I think. I honestly thought my life with Henrick would be forever. I saw us rocking in little chairs. I sat on our patio, drinking our tea. But nothing's concrete. There's no contract saying this is going to last forever. It has changed the way I feel about relationships now. Believe me, I tried to save that marriage with all my heart. But if somebody doesn't love you, you can't make them stay with you. And also I've realised that if you do love someone, you can let them go as well. I didn't feel pressured into it by the BBC at all. I mean, that's a big decision that Henrick and I made. Just unfortunately it didn't work. Whether the BBC or whether it would have been on TV, I don't think would have changed it anyway. I think it would have split up anyway. You talked about how you tried to make it work. Did you give it an extra effort because you knew that the wedding was so public and therefore the divorce would be? No, I did it for me. I wanted it to work for me. But as I said, we'd really grown apart. And the song I See It in Your Eyes, which I wrote, explains everything that I was going through at the time. And so many people have got back to me on this song because a lot of people have gone through the same thing. Henrick had his own ideals, and unfortunately they weren't mine. And as I said, sometimes you just have to let go. If it's not going to work, then why be in a relationship that is just not going to work? Life's too short, and I think there's a lot of people out there who feel the same. I'm looking for Mr. Wonderful again now. It's not put me off romance or even marriage again. I'm 40 now, free and fab, and I feel amazing. And life goes on. It took me a long time to grieve for him. It took me 18 months to actually get over it. And that's why this tour has been so special, because this is the first thing I've done on my own without him. And believe me, the first night was bigger than Vegas for me.
Do you think he was in love with Jane McDonald, the performer?
No, I think he was in love with Jane McDonald before all the TV happened, but I think he fell in love with the product more than the wife in the end. And that's a hard thing to admit, but it did happen to me, and I might as well be honest about it, because that's exactly what happened.
How soon after you got married did you know in your heart that this isn't right, there's something not going to work here? You had a thought in your mind that, was this the right decision?
It's funny, when I look back at photographs now of me in the last 5 years, I'm a completely different person. And I look in my eyes and there's nothing there. And I think to myself, how unhappy was I for that time? I'm putting on the act all the time. But behind closed doors is another thing. You just don't see what's happening to you. And I believed 100% that I was happy. And I would not let anybody tell me any different. But now it's all over and I'm back to being Jane again. I look back in horror thinking I would have put up with that for as long as it took, because I was desperate to not let that go.
There will be people listening today who are hearing your story and thinking, this is me, this is my life, but they're not as brave as you to take the risk and to do it and to get on and leave and have the divorce, it is an incredibly big step, particularly if there's children involved, because then you're involving them and the family, and it goes on and it goes on. It's still a bit of a taboo in a way, that's what I'm saying. Did you worry about that? Did you worry what people would think and how your family would react?
I've been lucky that the people have been right behind me, and lots of people saw how unhappy I was. I was the last person to see it. But, you know, the person who's going through it is usually the last person to know. There is all that. What am I going to do? Because I thought, my manager's gone, my husband's gone, I'm going to lose everything I've got. But that was the decision that I'm glad I took now. There's a lot of ladies out there who I know, because I've had so many letters saying, I wish I could get out of mine, because they have got children and they can't move on. And that, I'm glad I was in the position that I could move on, whereas there's so many people who can't.
I think it would have been a far easier decision to carry on and be unhappy, but continue, wouldn't it?
Big time, yeah. I mean, it took a lot of guts to do what I did in the end. But I mean, I was quite lucky because he left. So, but I'm glad I didn't chase the dream. I'm glad I didn't go after that particular thing. So my life's worked out much, much better now that he is out of it.
Congratulations, because you do seem far happier, and you seem yourself, and you're bubbly again, and you're vivacious, which is the way I felt I knew you in the beginning. Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying you were unhappy before. I didn't sense that you were terribly unhappy, but you weren't. You've got a sparkle back, and you can see that when I see you on telly now and stuff. And how soon did that come back? I mean, you said 18 months. Was it literally an 18-month period that it took you to get over it, to become the Jane McDonald that you knew before you kind of fell out of love with Henrick?
Yeah, it's about 18 months. I think everybody has their own grieving time, whether it's a loss of someone who's died, a divorce. I mean, I think they're very, very similar in what you go through. It is a bereavement when you split up from someone, when someone goes out of your life. And it did take me a lot longer than I actually thought, because I think of myself as a really strong woman, and I was pathetic. I mean, I really sat in my pyjamas for months and thought, what am I going to do? Rocking in a corner. So everybody, I think, has their own grieving time, but it's worth it once you come through that journey.
It's also things like going out to a restaurant. I mean, friends are great, but they're not there all the time, isn't it? And it's habits that you form, going to Tesco's with him and doing things with him and going to the bar or whatever. And then you suddenly haven't got that person there all the time, and it's finding somebody to replace that, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I was quite lucky. My husband never went to Tesco, love. So it was always me and my mum. So that's the same thing.
Maybe that was the problem. If you'd have walked down the aisles, you see, you might have continued down the aisle all the way.
True.
Who knows?
You never know. Always do your shopping together, ladies. That's the thing.
The key to marriage. We've found something here. We're like Ricky Lake, you and me, aren't we? We're like Trisha.
We are, love, we are.
Let's play the song then that you mentioned earlier. You've written this new album, which is coming out next year. This is a real exclusive, and I thank you for that. The album's called Behind Closed Doors, and it's basically written by you, and it's telling the story of your life, isn't it?
Yeah, I've always had that honesty with my public, really, my fans and everything, and I just tell it as it is. I've always been a bit like that, and I think that's probably why I've kept the fan base that I have, because they like the emotion, and I really have just opened my heart and spilt it all out on paper and thankfully put it to music. So I should ring him up really and thank him for the great album.
Was this therapy in a way?
It was very much therapy, but I've only just really got Jane back being on tour again. You know, because I thought I honestly couldn't do it without him. But with the help of the family and the fans, I'm back out there better and feeling better than ever.
Congratulations. I'm glad you're back to being yourself.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm back.
Where would you like to go next?
Well, there's lots of talk of me going worldwide as well now, because I'm a writer now, a singer-songwriter. That gives you a little bit more credit, really. So it's been received so well as my own writing, which for an artist who came off a cruise ship 5 years ago is unbelievable. I honestly feel as if it's a new beginning, and I don't feel under pressure to be at the top now, and I think that's the difference. All I do now is go out and just love to sing again, which is what I used to do all the time anyway. So I'm just enjoying every bit. Every day there's something different that can come in. A lot of it goes by the wayside, but now I can say, actually, I fancy doing that. I'd like to do a really good music show on TV. I think we desperately need a great music show like everybody used to watch. Family entertainment, I think, we need one of those shows back. And I'm the one to do it. I want to get out there and just say, look what we've got in this country. I mean, we're making all these stars on Pop Idols and Fame Academy. All the youngsters are coming up now. But what have they got to go on? There's no TV music shows out there. And I think it would be great to have a great music show again.
I don't wish to be rude, but I watch programs like Pop Idol and Fame Academy, which do create some real stars, and they do find some stars. But I look at a lot of them who are getting to the final rounds that just don't have it. And I'm very blessed that I talk to people like you on a regular basis, and you can see a star just by looking at them. You can see that they know what they're doing, they can perform and they can deliver. These people don't seem to have that. And I think we're creating the wrong type of celebrity. I don't know where it's going to leave us. I know in America, David Letterman jokes about the fact there's a star shortage because there's nobody coming through who has charisma and personality. Where are the next Des O'Connors coming from? Where are the next Bruce Forsyths, Ken Dodds, people like that? And yourself that can perform on stage. These people can't sing live.
Well, it is a worry, really, because, I mean, I think a lot of it has to do with the record companies. They don't like their artists to sing live. They want it to sound exactly as the record. And I think, you know, it's a bit of a shame now that people aren't getting the schooling anymore that I had. I mean, I was quite lucky. I did 15 years in the clubs and I did 8 years on the cruise ships, which is now classed as a dirty word. I can't believe that they say, well, you'll be good enough as a cruise ship singer. I was like, how dare you insult the people who are out there doing the job? There's a lot of people who just want to be a cruise ship singer or a club act, you know, and I think it's very insulting to say that. And I think to get a job on a cruise ship is a very difficult thing. And when I was on the cruise ships, you were on a rating system, and if you got 3 poors 3 weeks running, you were fired. So, I mean, it is a bit like being on Pop Idols. I think it's a shame that, you know, they are so cruel to them. I mean, I've watched, although I was addicted to Fame Academy, I found it very cruel for them to stand there and be absolutely annihilated every week. I would have gone up and smacked him one. I really would, because I just think cruel TV. I think, please, let's have some nice TV back.
I do wonder, though, whether some of these people that go on are more interested in fame and being a star than performing. And I'm always curious when they say, why do you want to be here? I think they should ask them all that on live TV. And if they give the wrong answer, which, I mean, their only answer should be to perform. That should be their dream, to perform. They think it's glamorous, and it's not very glamorous, touring. I mean, it's really not, is it?
No, as you can see, looking at me. I mean, I've got no makeup on, bless him. In fact, I'm glad people can't see me right now, because it would just spoil the whole illusion, wouldn't it?
You're gorgeous. I won't have a bad word said.
I look a sight, ladies and gentlemen, I really do. But it isn't glamorous. It's hard work. You're every single night doing a show. You're travelling in the bus with everyone. You're getting late nights, you know, and it is hard work, but it's so fulfilling. And I think if you've got the gift of a voice and you can make a living, whichever way it is, then you're blessed. And sometimes chasing fame can be the wrong thing. I'm just very lucky it did happen to me. But believe me, I thought I'd made it when I was a cruise ship singer.
Let's take another piece of music now. And you've had 3 incredibly successful CDs. You had Love at the Movies, you had Inspiration, and your self-titled CD. I mean, the reaction to these CDs was incredible, wasn't it?
Yeah, I've been very, very lucky. I've had some great success with the recording, which says to me, hello, there's an audience out there over 25 that just want to hear a singer sing a big song. You know, and I think it's very sort of ageist at the moment, is this business.
Well, it goes back to what you were saying earlier about TV. There was some statistic, I can't remember it exactly, but they were saying over 60% is aimed at the under 25s on TV, whereas more than 60% of the population is way over 25, in fact, over 40. So there has got to be a change, I think, and the advertisers will presumably in the end say, right, make programmes for older people.
Oh, I hope so. I might have a job, love.
Well, I hope so too. What song can we play then?
I love Somewhere, and that's been one of the biggest showstoppers in this tour, so I'd just like to let people hear this one. It's a great song.
My name is Alex Belfield. We're here today with our remaining moments with Jane, finding out about her life and career. We've got a lot to fit into this last section, and that has to be just one of the most amazing songs to sing, because it's naked in a way. There's no huge orchestra behind you. There's no beat to hide behind. If you can't sing it, it's not worth risking it, is it?
I've always loved that song, and a lot of people out there like that song as well, and I believe in the lyrics as well. I hope that is actually what happens. I hope we all do meet up someday again, all the people that I've loved and lost, and I really hope we have a great party when I go over.
And talking of which, you must have been thinking about your father a lot during your difficult times this year. You talk about him on stage and you say how you feel he's always with you. Did he give you any strength from the other side? Because I know you miss him terribly, but was he able to help?
Of course, and it's amazing that how much you need your family when you go through a bad time, and mine have been fantastic. I'm lucky with my family. But there is a closeness that I have felt. I have felt my father very close. And especially now that I feel like I'm back to Jane, because my father was there on all those years when I was just Jane. So it's nice to have that feeling back.
When you were talking earlier about the fact that you weren't right, did any of your friends take you aside and say, you know, this is not going so well, you're not being you? Did any of them try to help you?
I wouldn't hear a word said against him. I was like so defensive. I wouldn't hear anything. I didn't want to know. I just wanted, you know, me and Henrick to be fine. So everybody knew. I mean, as I said, I was the last person to see it coming. But I haven't had one person say, oh gosh, you know, I think you should go back, you know. So that says it all to me, really. But as I said, I loved him with all my heart, and that was probably why I didn't want to see it. I still had the rose-tinted glasses on.
Love is blind, isn't it?
It certainly is. Oh my goodness me.
You did do a lot in that period that was incredible. I mean, you did the show in Las Vegas, which must have been one of the most incredible experiences ever. I mean, everybody's there. I mean, I hear that Elton John's just signed an incredible contract, $400,000 a night or something, to do the Coliseum where Celine Dion is. And would you like to go back there, maybe do that kind of audience?
Do you know, it's weird. When I first did Vegas, I really didn't feel ready because I was under so much pressure. I didn't feel as if I was ready for that type of venue, whereas now if they offered me the job, I would snap it up in a heartbeat because I feel as if I am ready, and now it's my decision and not somebody else's decision. So I'm ready to take on the world now. You won't see me for dust now. I'm like, yes, come on, I'm ready now. It's
great to see the passion back, because that really has always been your calling card, hasn't it? The fact that you're so spontaneous and you're funny and quick and whatever, and the fact that you've got that back obviously opens a lot of doors for you. What would you directly like to do next? After the album that we're going to play another track from in a moment from now, you must have something in mind that you really want to do next that would be different or more of a challenge, or what is it?
I suppose conquering new ground. I love my fan base here, but the reaction we've had off the new material, as I said, I've proved myself to be a writer, a singer-songwriter now, and I don't just do the music or the lyrics, I do them both. So, you know, I've proved myself as an artist in my own right. I've grown into being Jane McDonald, the artist now. So I do feel as if I've learnt the trade for a while. And it would be nice to go to like Asia or America and try it there. But I would always obviously come back to England and do my tours here as well.
Is writing easy for you? Does it come naturally?
Yes, I've been very lucky. I just seem to shut myself in a room and get myself into a feeling of whatever I think the song should be, and it just sort of comes. And I was terrible at English at school. I can't believe I'm a writer now. That's so weird, isn't it? I was dreadful at English.
What comes first, the words, the music, or does it come together?
Usually I do the lyrics first and obviously get the rhythm of the song, and then I sit and think, oh, I might put that melody to that. Or sometimes I get a melody going through my head and I have to write that down, and then I put the lyrics too. So I do a little bit of everything, really. There's nothing, I don't have any set formula.
How long does it take to write a song?
It depends. Usually an afternoon. That's dreadful, isn't it? But I just, if I write it very quickly, I usually know it's going to be a good one. Like The Hand That Leads Me, I wrote that in about half an hour for my mum, because I just was so full of love for my mum that I could just write it very easily. So the lyrics do tend to come quite quickly.
Do you write about anything, just anything that's bothering you? If it's in the news, if it's a story, if it's an emotional problem, anything at all? Yeah,
I do. I sometimes read a story in the paper and I'm like, oh my God. And if it touches me, I put myself in that position, and that's when I try and write. I mean, so I do tend to, you know me, I'm so emotional. I pick up everybody's feelings very quickly, and that's how I do it. I got a letter off a lady who was going through the same as me with Henrick, but she had 2 children, and her husband was a bit of a philanderer. So I wrote a song called I'll Not Be Beaten, and that was I thought, thank goodness she wrote me that letter.
If you want to contact Jane, she has a website, www.jane-mcdonald.com, www.jane-mcdonald.com, and you can contact her that way. Go to the contacts page, click on email, and contact her that way. I know a lot of people listening to this program today will think, that is me. It's the same thing. I know a lot of people go through divorce, and it's the same thing wherever you are, whatever colour you are, however rich you are, the emotions are still the same, and you may want to share your thoughts with Jane. www.jane-mcdonald.com. Go to contacts and click email. Okay, final moments then with Jane before we play, in my opinion, her greatest song. You'll have to guess what that is. But before we go, we see you from time to time on the chat shows, and do you enjoy doing them? I mean, you seem as if you do.
I do, yes, it's great. It's usually obviously to plug something that I'm going to be doing, but it's great now to sort of ring up and say, can I come on? And people say, yeah, actually, yeah, we will have you on. This morning, I'm like one of the staff there. I know them all so very well. So it is nice to be at that level now where I can still do all the chat shows. And I do love them, yeah.
Who do you enjoy doing? Because it's always nice to do an interview with someone you like. Because, I mean, for example, you, it's just great to talk to you because I know you'll give me an answer. Some people don't want to talk, which is interesting when you're doing an interview.
Yeah, that is. But that is probably people controlling them. As I said, I've got nobody now telling me what to say or what to do. Usually you've got PR people, you've got managers saying you can't say this, don't do that. And now it's like, don't care what I say now. I love Des. Obviously, Des has been a good friend of mine. Fern and Philip. Just a hoot they are. All sorts of people, really. I just like a good old natter. You know me, Alex. And, of course, you, Alex Belfield.
That was the answer I was looking for. We went through this morning and Des and Mel before we got there. But, I mean, if I'm up in their league, that's very nice. Jane McDonald, it's always a real pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for being so honest. And, as I say, if you want to email again, jane-mcdonald.com is the website. And you can talk to her there because I just know there will be so many people going, that is me. Thank you for your honesty because you will have helped a lot of people. We're going to end now with a song that I just think is your best song ever, really. This Is My Moment. It's just beautiful, isn't it?
This has been probably one of my theme tunes now. It's up there with You're My World. Everybody expects that song. And once again, the response has been phenomenal from the fans on this song. So I thank you very much as well. It's always great to see you.